What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 8. Today we're going to be doing another book discussion with my good friend Chris Heaney. And we're going to be talking about James Clear's book, Atomic Habits.
Cool, yeah, so we all listen to the book. I'll do a quick overview.
You can push her down.
Quick overview of the book. It's kind of about the theory and science behind that.
Here, come here, baby.
It's kind of about the science of habits. And so he presents a kind of a model of how habits work, and kind of also ties in how habits, you can use them to basically improve your life, and kind of a framework about how to think about habits. So he kind of outlines this idea that a habit consists of basically a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. And you can go look this up online, but it kind of forms a cycle. And based on that kind of model of the 4 parts of a habit, he proposes laws about how you can build and break habits. So for making a habit, the 4 laws are basically make it obvious, meaning you want to make the cues for your good habits very obvious. You want to make it easy, such that basically second law, is make it attractive, so that craving that triggers the habit, you want something to make it really easy to get into the action that you take. The third step, which is the response, you want to make that action easy to take for your habit. And then the 4th one, make it satisfying, is the reward from your habit should really make you feel good. And now for breaking a habit, the 4 laws are make it invisible, which means, the cue for your habit, kind of getting that out of mind and out of sight. Make it unattractive, basically that craving part. If you can make that craving weaker, or even develop an aversion to that craving, that can help you break a habit. Make it difficult, which means that action you take in your bad habit, make it as hard as possible to take that action. And then 4th, make it unsatisfying. The response to that bad habit, that basically that reward that you get, you want that to be unsatisfying.
Yeah, like a punishment instead of a reward, basically. Yeah, so I thought we'd just kind of start and get into like what something each of us kind of took from the book. We'll kind of just riff off of that. So, do you have something on mind, Shani?
Where do I start, This book was almost overwhelming for me, because I was like, I know how much this book would help me if I could really implement it. And there's so much good stuff in it that it's like I feel like I have to go back and like read it and like make a whole plan and system of how I'm actually going to implement it in my own life. But one of the really interesting things he talked about was the whole habit stacking. So if you want to implement reading a book and you want to do it at night, you lay your book on your bed. And so just little things like that, so that it's in your mind. For example, I started leaving like my ring light out and my camera tripod out. And usually I like very like minimal, like I like everything put away. But that helped remind me like I need to film. I would get those constant like reminders throughout the day. So I thought that was a really cool and easy rule you can implement. And I don't want to take everyone's, so I'll just let you guys talk a little too, and you can come back to me.
We already talked about it a lot. Well, and you and I talked about it too. It's like it was an amazing book.
Yeah,
I thought you made the point, Chris, of that it was really concise, which I agree. So for anybody listening, I mean, we all did the audiobook, right? And I don't know how long it was, probably 6 or 8 hours or something.
Maybe even like 4 hours.
Maybe less. It almost feels like it's like a user manual, like an instruction book. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think as an author, if we talk about kind of the actual writing, and like it doesn't seem like his ego is that like injected into the book. You know what I mean? like he uses some examples of how, habits that he developed. Like he talks about when he went to college to play baseball and he got injured and beginning the habit of, I think it was just lifting weights, and he like put on like 20 pounds and it helped him with baseball. But those anecdotes, and this is something Chris, you pointed out, was like those anecdotes are just as long as they need to be. He doesn't there's not a lot of fluff in the book, which I liked.
Yeah, and I really love those anecdotes because they're inspiring. You realize that I think sometimes we get in our own head and we're like, we think, wow, I'm so disorganized, or it's pathetic that I have to like really make a system for myself. Like you feel pathetic having to implement like strategies to get off bad habits. But the way he really like goes about this book is he's like, every single person struggles with this, and that's just humanly innate, and here's the reasons why like we struggle with behavior change, because it's even like, it's a scripture in the Bible, like I do all the things that I don't want to do, and I don't do the things I want to do. And I feel like everyone can relate to that when you want to make a behavior change, and it's so hard. And he just like the fact that like Benjamin Franklin and other people were like implementing these things in their everyday life, they struggled with the same things as us, of like staying on task or changing their behavior. And that's like really inspiring to me that all these people have kind of played with this whole system of habits.
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons that I decided to check out this book was that Chris Williamson recommended it on that podcast, and he said that like a lot of self-help or self-improvement books can be like summarized in a paragraph, and I think this book is hard to do that. And that's what makes it good, is that it has there's a lot to it. It's not as simple as just make better habits, lose your bad ones or whatever. But to me, if I think about the essence of the book, it's kind of trying to get across an idea that, that the system is more important than like the destination or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and every self-help book and every like motivational video is setting you up to like be like, yes, I'm gonna do it, and then failing. Like Gary Vee says, make more content. It's that simple. Just make more content and stop giving a crap about what people think. But yet it's so hard to implement making more content when you have your habits so ingrained into your life. And so this book actually helps you kind of unpack all of your bad habits and unpack how you can like go about implementing the good habits.
Yeah, I think calling it a user manual is pretty interesting, because when I was reading it, and I already kind of think like this, but it's telling you some of the theory about how habits work and really how human behavior works, and then saying, given that you know that this is the model for human behavior, like how can you program yourself almost to do things each day that are good for yourself, or not do things that are bad for yourself. So it's like you're kind of getting like this really concise explanation of how you can program yourself. And so some people, like, that might be like, they might not be interested in programming themselves, but if you look at a lot of successful people, that's essentially what they do. They come up with ways for each day to put out content, to write, to exercise, to code, whatever the thing is you have to do. And there are a lot of tricks that you can do to basically make sure you get those things done. And I think the book gives you a lot of mental models about how you can do that for yourself. And so in essence, it's like a very strong or a high ROI on reading it or listening to it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's interesting listening to it and being like, oh, what do I already do? Like, I already do some of these things. Like, I take a hot bath every morning, and it's to get me out of bed, because I don't want to get out of like my warm bed and like go walk the dog in the freezing cold. And so I'm like, okay, first you get a hot bath, and then you can start your day, and it like wakes me up. And so that's like one of the reward things that I already use in my life. So I thought that was interesting too. So like, think about what you already do.
Yeah, that's what me and Chris were talking about. The book, it was, it kind of like stroked my ego, and that like it helped me make sense of some of the changes I've made in my life the past couple of years with hindsight, you know. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, Chris and I were just talking about it, and, you know, now with working out, I, like, try different programs and different, like, types of movements, and I, like, kind of obsess over, like, the details of my strength training. But when I started going to the gym about 2 years ago, I just went and I like literally did whatever I wanted for 40 minutes, like really quick, and I didn't have any program. I like never did squats because I didn't like doing squats back then. And looking back at it, it's kind of like how he talks about making every habit like initially just 2 minutes long is one of the things. And it's like you like literally if you want to start running, first all you do is like put on your running shoes every day. You don't even have to go run, but you just, and once you start getting the habit automated, it's just kind of what Chris said. It's like you don't have to think about it anymore. And what I noticed recently, and what I think it'd be interesting if we all talk about like maybe some of the habits that we're trying to implement or trying to get rid of. But like what I noticed today actually was like I got home and it was early, and I was just feeling kind of lazy, and I had a couple hours before I was going to pick up Chris to go to the gym, and I knew that I had a lot of time to meditate and get a good meditation in, but I was like, just wanted to watch YouTube videos. And I started to feel weird that I wasn't meditating. And I think that's kind of like what happens when you make something a habit and you start getting a streak. It's like you feel like something's missing when it's not there. And once you get to that point, it's pretty easy just to keep doing it.
But he did mention that it's much easier to fall off than it is to create a habit. And that's why he has a rule, because we're human and we are gonna like miss the gym, that he doesn't miss a workout like 2 days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that rule was a nice one to implement into your life. Like, it's okay to have a cheat meal, but your next meal, make sure it's healthy.
Yeah, I think that gets an interesting point of kind of, even if things seem like a gimmicky rule, they can actually add a lot of value. So in college, I got into meditating, and meditating is about like being, you know, kind of at ease with yourself and being forgiving towards yourself, right? Otherwise, it's hard to meditate. But interestingly, that can make it hard to keep the habit, because people will say, well, if you don't meditate today, like that's okay, you know, like don't be hard on yourself. But then that makes it very easy to not do it every day. And so you have to, like, with a habit, even holding yourself to just go to the gym every day, even if you get a really bad workout in, it keeps that structure to it and keeps you going.
Yeah.
And so just holding yourself to simple rules like that, and I think is really important for carrying your habit through.
Yeah. Yeah, because like, you know, like eating healthy, right? Like that's something that I generally have been eating pretty healthy for the past year, and I lost a lot of weight, but it's like I started dieting hard so I could lose weight, and then it's like once you lose the weight, it's like kind of hard to like keep, you know, it's like the reason that you did it is like disappears if you get to an outcome. I don't know.
And that's another thing in the book is he talks about, I got this from Scott Adams, the guy, I think his name's Scott Adams, the guy who created Dilbert, is goals versus systems. So a goal being, you know, I want to lose a certain amount of weight, I want to run a mile in a certain amount of time, I want to win a certain award, versus a system is I'm going to eat healthy each day, or I'm going to work out every day, or you know, I'm going to have the habits of an author or a coder. And so, and he kind of talks about how goals kind of don't last, essentially, like you're saying. So if you want to lose 10 pounds and you over-optimize to lose those 10 pounds, once you hit that goal, now your motivation goes away and you fall off. What really you want is lifelong habits.
Yeah.
That, like, you want a system of being healthy that once you get that system in place, it doesn't disappear. Right. And so I kind of think about the book as like, talks about building a system, and then a component in those systems are all your habits. And so you want to build a system of being healthy, and now what's, you know, the end set of habits that you can make up that system.
Live the life of someone. The focus is living the life of someone that's healthy instead of all of the focus being on, I need to lose weight.
Yeah, it's like a continuous goal. It's
Because
like,
our brains, the way they work, he said, was the focus is only, I want to lose weight, then you will do crash diet and you'll take diet pills and you'll do whatever you can to just lose weight. But if the focus is, I'm going to live like a healthy person, even if I'm not a healthy person yet, then you're going to the gym every day. This one person made an entire system that was so detailed, like quarter 1, focus on food log, quarter 2, get to the gym every day, quarter 3, create the contract, where he actually had to, that was where the punishments came in, where he had to pay someone if he didn't food log for a day, and then he had to dress up Monday through Friday, and on Sunday if he didn't work out.
Yeah, so it was a habit contract, right?
And then
he signed with his wife and his trainer. Yeah. So that's like something really cool about the book, I think, is that you can literally go on his website and find the template for tracking your habits. And I did some of it. So there's like a habit tracker. There's one where you just write out your habits, what you do every day, and you kind of assign it. Is this neutral, positive, or negative? So it kind of gives you an idea of like what you want to add or stop doing. And I found this note that I wrote down. I thought it was cool. This is kind of at the beginning of the book. He talks about how people with better self-control actually use their willpower less. So they don't even put themselves in situations where they have to use their willpower. And I hear people like within kind of the fitness sphere talk about that a lot. Like, your willpower is so finite, and if you're constantly being tempted and having to use your willpower, it's not going to last forever. So building if we're talking about diet, it's like not like building a system where you don't even get the temptation. And that's kind of one of those laws, right? It was like make it invisible, so you don't even get the cues for the bad habit.
Yeah. So a good example of that is like when you go grocery shopping, not buying all the sweets and then needing willpower to stop you from eating the sweets. Yeah. It's an example of like making it invisible. I think, and also there's some like psychological studies about how, I think it's called ego depletion, where you basically have a fixed amount of willpower over the course of the day. So usually people make good decisions in the morning and they make decisions they regret at night. So sending bad texts or like bad emails or eating poorly, it usually happens at night, and it's because throughout the day you basically lose willpower, like the mental energy to have that fortitude. Yeah. And it is like a crazy, basically willpower is overrated is the TLDR, and that you should, again, this is like, you should program yourself around knowing that you have like Y willpower points a day, and try to make sure that you don't put yourself in a position that you use, you need to use Z, you know? So I think that's a really interesting point.
I think this book was really, I think we've kind of talked about our culture before, like with a lot of things, we've become soft as a society. Soft to say it nicely. And I find that a lot with my Instagram, and I'm brainwashed myself. I'm like, you don't need to go to the gym, Shani. Don't be so hard on yourself. You are like, the fact that you're making yourself go to the gym is sick. That means you have some sort of body dysmorphia. You look great. You don't need to go to the gym. You don't need to track your calories. Be a free human. You know, that's what like people tell us that in our culture. And the truth of it is, if you look at the people that you want to live like, me, I want to live like someone that's super strong, super healthy, and has an amazing body, even in my 40s, you know? And so if I look at someone that in their 40s, they look amazing and they're super healthy, that person goes to the gym almost every day and probably tracks their calories, or at least pays attention really to what they eat. And so for me to try to like with our society, it's so common. Like we tell ourselves, no, it's okay. You know, like
Yeah.
you don't have
Well,
to buckle down.
Do you think
on
a
this.
cue for you is like Instagram? Like that's like a cue that kind of can be negative.
I think that just reading other people's soft bullshit is like not good for me. And like,
So like, how do you? So
I mean, this is a bit of a riff, but like there's some sense of like the information you put in your brain is going to affect your thoughts, which are going to affect your behavior. And I mean, we see it right now. Like people are constantly watching the news, up in arms about how bad the world is, and there's a sense in which you can program yourself to not think those thoughts just by not even consuming that information.
yeah,
And like that's the whole like don't consume the news, right? Like it's not as urgent as everyone's making it sound. And so if you just stop consuming news, like a lot of people who don't consume the news are a lot happier. And there's this sense of like it's a bit parasitic, and the news is telling you that if you don't watch the news, you're basically a bad person and you're irresponsible.
Yeah, you need to
but
be
it's
informed.
making you less happy and it's making you angry, and you go in the world and you're a worse person. It's like, well, you gotta. There's this sense of agency where like maybe you have to keep that information out of your brain.
yeah.
yeah, focusing on what you can actually do to
'Cause
make
you
the
think-
world a better place, which is, you know, like volunteering or mentoring or and just being a nice person, like versus going around angry and telling everyone what the news is saying. Like, did you see this?
Yeah, yeah. So what are Shani? What's a habit that you want to get rid of or that you want to implement that this book kind of inspired?
I definitely want to post more reels and like Instagram videos,
Reels?
like TikToks and stuff.
Yeah. How about you?
I think there is like I don't know if Kanye actually did this, but I heard like he just made like a beat a day for like a whole summer, and it's just like there is a sense that you think like great artists, like, oh, they just must be inspired and they put out hits. But then you like go and you read some stories and it's like, no, they were hacking the creative process too, you know? And there's this like, almost like, if you just put out stuff every day and then you comb through it, that's how you kind of like end up being a great content creator.
I think he talked about that in this book. Like, so there was like a photography class where, right? So basically in the book, he says there's in a photography class, they told half the students to take one like amazing picture, and the other half was like 100, just do like 100 pictures or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one that did like 100 pictures actually had way better pictures.
Right. So the people that were just trying to get the one picture that was great, spent so much time planning that one picture actually ended up being not as good as the people who did 100 pictures, and then were able to basically select through the 100.
Yeah.
Almost like it's like a Darwinian process where you just put out 100 and then you filter the population of content for like the top one.
Yeah.
And the creative process works like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so I love the book because he talked. I mean, like that. It's not really like having directly to do with habits, but it's like I don't know. I took that as a reason to have a new habit. Like, yeah, just create more.
Quit worrying so much on quality.
Yeah.
Kind of like Gary Vee says.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, if you do make a habit, like I'm gonna wake up every morning, hot bath, then immediately after the hot bath, reel, and then that leads you to do a reel every day. It's like the habit is almost like the implementation of the kind of the idea of creating constantly.
Yeah.
But just saying I'm gonna create constantly doesn't mean anything until there's that like you have a way of propelling yourself to do it every day, which is it's cool.
And you talked about everyone that's mastered something experiences it being boring, which I really liked, because I feel like when I talk to people, and even myself, I notice this, but you know, they are super excited about an idea, and then they do it once, and then they get bored with it, and then they try it's on to the next, and you're almost like, is this person like crazy? But then you notice it with everybody. Like you start like, that's how everybody is. We never like stick to anything. It's always a new business idea that like they never implement, you know? And then, you know, when you listen to why, it's usually I just got bored with it. It's like me, I used to post a blog post every week, and it just felt like no one was really reading it. It felt like, just boring. And so I quit. And it says every master or expert experiences boredom. The difference is you learn to stick to the struggle instead of jumping to a new thing when it gets boring. And then the key he talked about was the Goldilocks Rule. So making it challenging but not too hard. So implementing like new things to make it exciting, but not where it's like so hard. Like one time I wanted to learn video animation, and I sat down to learn it, and it's like really freaking hard. And so I kind of just gave up on it. And so like that's like a good example for me is like that was way too hard, So finding a good medium of let's just stick to regular video editing first before we jump into like trying to hack animation design.
I think that is really big. Is like if you try to do something too hard, you're never gonna pick it up. And like enjoying the phase you're at is really important to habits. So if you're not content at the easy phase, you're never even gonna get to like mastery. Like for me, I've thought like, oh, it'd be really cool to draw, like be a master drawer, right? But like I didn't even enjoy doing it for 10 minutes. So how am I going to get to like the 10,000 hours to be an expert? And so it does kind of give you a mental model of like, if you don't like doing it in the most simple way without being a master, you're never even going to be a master. And then that kind of can show you stuff. Like you can use that to understand like yourself better, right? Like what's something skill that's like kind of simple that you could do for a long time and enjoy it. Because a lot of people the master of anything seems cool, like if you show me a master of like snowboarding or like deciding whether the eggs of a chicken are male and female, like there's people that apparently master that. I'd be like, wow, that's so sick, but am I gonna spend the time to become a master of that? No. And that's how I know like you gain a sense of like who you are. It's like what are the things you could master.
Right.
Like understand your gifts.
And he touched on that in the book too, right? He brings up the big 5 personality traits. I'm trying to remember exactly but I think that was kind of the idea of it. It's just like you're born with disposition to to do different skills and things that, like you said, naturally. Like we were just talking about it today, and like Chris is a software developer, and I thought there was a point where I was like, oh man, like being a software developer like looks so cool, and oh, they make good money, and they just they get to create these rules and logic all day, and I thought it sounded cool, and I tried it out for a little bit, and I did it for a couple weeks, and I didn't get that bug. It wasn't not even easy for me, but just exciting, I think. And we were talking about the difference, and it's like Chris has skateboarded too. We used to skateboard at college together all the time. But it's I became obsessed with skateboarding and would do it dream about it and watch videos and do it day in, day out. And it's Chris just more chilling, going around different places, And so I think that the book does a good job of showing that's okay that you have your individual differences and you should be aware of them and kind of use it to your advantage,
And it's funny how this one tied into kind of the Rich Dad Poor Dad one we were talking about, because he did go into, you don't have to be the best writer, but you have to be a decent writer and then good at I don't know if that was the example he gave.
Was that Scott Adams?
But that he brought it up in Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah.
Oh,
being a good writer and a good salesperson. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, right? And something else. This one guy had 3 traits that made him really great.
Is it the guy who makes Dilbert? I think he talks about
Dilbert?
It's like a comic.
Yes, the comic.
He was a drawer and an okay comic, right?
Yeah, he's not amazing at drawing, but he's good. And then he's not the funniest. He's not funnier than most comedians, but he's funnier than your average person. And then he had really good business sense. And so that made him this really good
Yeah.
drawing comic sensation.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that too is I'm pretty sure he didn't like reason out and say, oh, if I'm a good drawer, a good business person,
Right.
like I'm going to then be rich. Like there's no way he could have reasoned backwards from that on like a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Instead, he bootstrapped from who he was. He just was going into the things he liked. And then 10 years later, once he's successful, it's like, oh, obviously, like that was a unique combination.
Yeah.
But like the way to discover that, interestingly, is
Right.
just like to trust your instinct.
Yeah.
And like go deeper into the things you like and become an expert in what you're into. And I think a lot of my personal strategy about like how I'm trying to figure out what I want to do in life and what I'm going to be good at is like, what do I like and what am I good at and what can I spend thousands of hours doing?
Right.
And then that's where I'm going to go, because that then the opportunity will evolve from that. And I think I'm into like coding, which is like you can get a job coding, but I think it's really true for like any type of.
Yeah.
I think like nature has inscribed in us like valuable skill sets. Like if you're very extroverted, like that's not going anywhere. I don't care about like all like the AI taking all our jobs. Like you should like hone that. Or if you like writing, like I mean we live in like a age where you can anyone can be an author and post stuff on the internet. So like I'm pretty bullish on like people developing what's unique to them and that being essentially rewarded in life with like a career.
Yeah.
He talked about it being a balance of exploring new things and something else.
In software, it's called like explore and exploit, where like exploring is trying new things and exploiting is doing the thing that you know is already like most valuable.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which I don't know.
Yeah, you gave the example of Google employees working. I always bring up Google somehow. He gave the example of Google employees, like a certain percentage, they get to
Like
do new projects.
Like 1 day a week.
And then the rest is like their expertise.
Yeah, so Chris, what's a habit maybe that you want to implement or that you want to break?
Well, the one that I've been doing and trying to make a long-lasting habit is meditation. So I started in college, like I already said, and then kind of fell off after school. And so I've actually been doing it for like a week or two before we started listening to the book. And then what I was actually already doing was right when I wake up in the morning, since we're all working remote, I basically just meditate first thing right after I make my cup of coffee. And so that kind of goes into the book talking about habit stacking, where one habit leads you into the next habit. So my habit is I make coffee every morning. And so now it's kind of those two are becoming more and more coupled. So I've been doing that probably for like the last month and a half and just hoping to stick with it, because I think it's meditation's one of those things where it's like you don't have to do it every day, but when you do it, I think you can make an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good thing to bring up is like the habit stacking. And I'll say that it was a little alarming to me that like the only reward I could think of was caffeine actually. Like all my habits, I was like, oh, if I do that, then I can drink drink or coffee. Yeah, how about, so you said that the one that you want to implement, Shani, is making content.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you want to not do? Like a bad habit that you might use the principles of the book to get rid of?
I don't know if you know this, but I'm perfect. Well, one of them for sure is he talked about keeping your house clean. And there's this guy that like always had a beautifully clean house. And it didn't come down to he cleaned he didn't really do like tons of deep cleaning. He just did a little bit of cleaning every day. So like whenever he's in the bathroom, he like wipes the floor and the mirror, and just like wherever he goes, he will pick up things. And I've been trying to do that more in my life. Even before this book, like I heard a girl say, like, make sure you like, if there's anything that's not supposed to be in that room, anytime you leave the room. So like in the bedroom, we bring like cups in every night. And so in the morning, anytime I leave, I like grab all the cups or any like ice cream barrels we left from the night before. Ice cream pints. But I just want to do that even more. And I've tried to do that with dishes, like right after I get done, rinse the dish off, put it in the dishwasher. That's because I spend my weekends like cleaning up the house, and that time could be spent doing other things. If like throughout the week I was better at like, instead of just throwing all my clothes on the floor, like putting the ones that are okay to still wear, like clean enough to still wear again, and then the other ones go in like dirty clothes,
Yeah, so one habit that I'm trying to break is like buying things I don't need. Like just basically shopping or like impulsive spending, and honestly most of what I buy is like food, like groceries that I don't need for recipes that I won't make or something like. And so I think it's the third rule of breaking, so the third rule of like breaking a bad habit that Chris covered earlier is make it difficult. So the thing that I did, it's just so like I basically like leave my debit card at home. I think I told both of you guys this, but I basically leave my debit card at home, and I only use my Cash app to buy things when I'm out and about. So I'll only have a little bit of money in the Cash app at any given time. So anytime that I'm like, oh wait, I'm gonna buy this like new blender that's $80, I have to transfer money into that account. So it's like an extra step that makes me kind of think about it as opposed to just like pulling out my credit card and buying it. Mm-hmm. It's a small thing, but I have noticed it made the difference already.
I think that's an interesting point, and the idea I like from the book he brings up, and he calls it the Ulysses Pact, based on like Ulysses being on the boat and strapping himself, having his crew basically strap him to the boat so they couldn't go and be sucked in by the sirens. And so Ulysses Pact is at one point in time you make a certain decision and take an action such that it's impossible in the future that you basically do your bad habit or take some action that you don't want to take.
Yeah. And
like finding ways to make Ulysses Pact comes back to reducing the amount of willpower you need. So, and it's interesting because in some cases you can just kind of, if you can pull the trigger, you can completely break a bad habit. So one thing you can do with social media is you can literally delete your account, right? Like if you really felt like it was bad for you, you could delete, and just in that one moment, you can impulsively delete your account. Like you lose everything you already had there, and now you're off. And I know most people wouldn't do that. That's just an example.
I liked what he said about he had his assistant change the password every week.
Yeah.
And then he could only log into it on a certain day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other one he had the tweet scheduled out, that the guy that wanted to start waking up earlier, and it was like scheduled out to say, I'm lazy and that's why I'm still sleeping or something.
So you have to stop it every morning?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
I think we'll continue to see like new apps and technology that basically revolve around how can people more successfully break habits and complete habits. Like I think even like somehow if you can say put some money into escrow, some money you don't want to lose, and then verify that, like come up with a verification that you're breaking a habit, and then if you actually follow through on it, you get your money back, and if you lose it, say it gets donated to charity. Mm-hmm. Like that can be very valuable, right? Like because a lot of times we want to break habits, but we don't have accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. Something else I just thought too is like he talks a lot about, especially in the end of the book, just how like observing and like tracking behavior is actually like that in itself is a good method if you want to change or continue a certain behavior. So like he gives like the habit tracking template, and I was telling Chris like because caffeine, it's like can only be so much of a reward for me. Like I realized that I'm trying to do meditation every day too, and I have it in a Google spreadsheet so I can look at my phone or on my computer. Every day that I do meditation, I put a 1. If I don't do meditation that day, I put a 0. And so like that little reward of just doing meditation and then tracking that I did it is like enough intrinsically where I keep doing it. Mm-hmm. And again, this is like one of the cool things about it is that he talked, about tracking your behavior, and like it's something that I've been doing, and it made me look back on the past couple of years and be like, oh, that's why I've found success with X, Y, or Z, because I write about it every single morning, and I'm constantly like monitoring my behavior. Like with my health, it's like I track all my my strength. I track all my lifts every week, and then I track my weight every day. I take pictures of myself in the mirror every day, and it's that in itself is a good way to like keep me on track for my goals. Just observing it and tracking it. I think, it's kind of crazy how profound of effect it can have.
And he talks about, with habit tracking, I think it was that focus on a few habits, not like so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that like hard for me because I'm always like, today I'm going to be so perfect. I'm going to meditate and I'm going to work out and I'm going to read and I'm going to make all this content for my podcast, my Instagram, my work. Like,
and I'm going to clean my house.
And I'm going to clean my house. Like, I make this like unrealistic to-do list, and it's like, just focus on a few habits and track those. And I really liked the whole paperclip thing because it's like so visual, and it's like, here's this one habit that
Can you explain that for the viewers?
So they just have 2 jars, and I don't remember what the person's habit was.
Salesman.
Sales call was each paperclip, and he was a salesman, and he wanted to make like 150 calls a day or something, and so each time he made a call, he put it into the jar, and then once the jar was full, I don't know, did he have a reward or something?
No, I think it was literally just
the visual aspect,
a physical manifestation.
So I would maybe do that and then add a reward to it, like, oh, now you go get lunch.
Yeah, like a simple one that I just thought of, like I'm kind of doing it on the spreadsheet, but I think it would be cool maybe like to have a calendar on my wall, and every day I make content, I make an X. Because it's like there's a certain amount of momentum that you get from doing that, and then like I was saying earlier with the meditation, it's like I'm at the point where it starts to feel uncomfortable if I don't do it, and that's a good sign, I think.
And I made these. I use ClickUp, which is a project management system for work, and I made the content calendar in this board view where like each post will have a photo. And then, like, when you look at it from the board view, you can see all the posts that you've, like, concepted. And then I can take, once it's ready for needs approval for my boss to look at it, I, like, visually take it and drag it into this other column. And it's, like, needs approval. And that, like, feels so good to, like, instead of just, like, sending an email like I used to with, like, all the posts for the week and him, like, replying back, like, which ones are approved. The fact that I can like slide each one to this like little thing is really satisfying and visualize it. I'm much more visual like that. Like I don't like to just check it off on a list. I like to actually like see it and like see all my posts like lined up with how they're gonna look.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like your point, like with technology there's so many ways that we can improve these habits and stuff. Because like something I know a lot of people do is the screen time on your iPhone, right? Like, so you can get a notification every week of how much time you're on your screen, and I know that helps people use their phone less. Just the fact that it's being tracked. Like it's not even public. Although James Clear does talk about like making things public to keep accountability, like like for me, like on my watch, right? Like this little activity ring, like no one cares if I close it or not. Like no one's like checking in on me that I'm closing it, but I feel weird if I don't close it, just because I know it's being tracked. And I like to look back, kind of like you said, and you can see like, oh wow, the past 3 months I've closed my activity,
Yeah. I'm interested, this is, sorry, orthogonal riff. I'll see what you guys feel about it. Like would you be interested in, this is turning into app brainstorm session?
Yeah.
Like, basically, if you could put up, say, like $100 and in escrow, and it basically checks if you've actually meditated every day or worked out, burned a certain amount of calories, or basically been on your screen more than a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And then if you break it, say that $100 goes to like a charity or you just lose the money.
Or your friend or something.
Or maybe your friend, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, would you...
Or maybe
Would
it's
you use
submit a nude photo, and the nude photo goes to
Oh,
other
yeah.
Exactly. Some...
Ulysses packed or whatever.
Yeah,
like hardcore.
Yeah.
Like it sends a boss.
This will forever ruin your life.
It sends an email to your boss like, fuck you, I quit. You know?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Like, would you guys be interested in that?
I would totally be interested in that. Well, the money especially, like $100, you know, and it automatic. Yeah, dude.
Should we head up to James Clear for?
Yeah, I think that's a really
some
good
angel, so he can seed us.
Yeah, I think because that's kind of like a virtual habit contract. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah,
Maybe we should cut this part out so no one takes the
locks
idea.
you out.
Sorry, Wilson. I'm piecing. Amazon.
Locks you out of your social media for a certain time period. If you
Yeah.
don't.
Or maybe like goes and pokes your crush on Facebook.
Yeah, leaks your most searched people.
Yeah.
Who you search the most.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I like that.
screenshots your search history and post it on all your platforms or something.
When you were saying like you like the visual stuff, there's this whole like subset of Twitter that's about like kind of tools for thought, and the people that kind of pioneered a lot of computing and the computing interfaces were really interested. Like, how do we build these artifacts that basically make us smarter, or more productive, and like how can we? And he actually gets into this too, like designer environments. How can we structure the world around us such that we can like basically be the people we want to be? I think one thing is like having that like kind of ritual and that visual feedback is one way to form habits, and like how can we design the environment around us to better achieve like what we want to do in life. And I really like the tools for thought people that are like, okay, how can we as designers make humans environments better? So versus like say worse, you know, like
because
like,
right
cause
now
people in capitalism are like, oh, like sugar and cigarettes and all these things, but there's also another way I think that you can steer.
And right now, after watching that Social Dilemma, everything is kind of technology is being used to distract us right now. And even with our email, the guy was like addicted to his email. And he talks about in the book a slot machine, and that's what our phone is it's a slot machine. And he says like he didn't say this, he talked about slot machines like are in video games. They're very addicting because people they like doing it, I guess. For it to be addicting, you have to like it. And that's what Instagram is. It's showing everything that you like and you're interested in. So we're just like set up to like fail and spend too much time on all of these like platforms. Or like in our email, we get like tons of like companies trying to get us to buy stuff all the time, right? So right now technology is just so distracting. So yeah, I would really love to see things go that way where like we can use it for good more.
Yeah. And as a pitch, the only solution to problems, like technological problems, is like more technology. And I think I'm very against this idea that like, okay, some companies are bad, so then we need like the government to regulate them all. Instead, we just need like more companies to like almost like counterbalance them. And like
That's
bring new
interesting
solutions.
because I was gonna say I've seen that they have that phone that like doesn't do any apps. And it's like a Kindle screen. It's not even like an LED screen. You know what I'm talking about? And it's kind of like an anti-technological piece of technology. But do you think that that's like not a good solution? Well, I guess it is. It is more technology.
That is a good solution.
That is a good solution.
It is more technology though, even though it's like trying to take
I think
away
there's
technology.
now, I heard a social media app that's I can't exactly remember, but it was something where it's less addicting and they're trying to like push it like this is a healthy. It's
like a social media app that like sucks to be on.
Yeah, but then it's like
not fun.
but then no one's gonna be on it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean I think
but if everyone gets together and is like, let's all use this because it won't like this is where we post our stuff, but it won't keep us glued as much. It's like maybe if everyone's using it. Like,
I think it's just like being aware of the effect it has on you. Because like on my social media, if somebody posts something that that I know makes me angry and they do this consistently, like I just unfollow them. Like I don't care if they're my friend or not. Like I don't want to see their stuff. And so like you can kind of curate. You can design your environment, your virtual environment, your physical environment. Like you were saying, like you leave your ring light on your bed to remind you to film. Like I literally do the same thing. It's funny you said that. But like on my social media, like most of the people I follow now are like skateboarders and fitness people. So it's like every time I go on social media, I'm like, oh yeah, like this hypes me up to like make a new recipe or to go skate or to like go lift. It's just like always like something that makes me, it's never like, oh, this is like triggers me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know, it doesn't do any good.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, the social media documentary, there's something there that, the companies are optimizing for your attention, and that can be bad, but the solution isn't to make the social media companies like a GSE and like...
What's a GSE?
I don't know why. It's a government-sponsored entity.
Oh, okay.
Right? The solution is for everyone to understand that, learn how to be on the internet, and be like a citizen of the internet, and not be able to meter themselves and learn good habits. Technologies like the internet's so promising, and we just need like bottom up, learn how to use it.
It's like an education issue now. It's education, not regulation.
Boom. Put that on a bumper sticker.
Boom. I'm actually writing that down.
Should I live tweet it?
I like how we're kind of going off on tangents about that. It's not even really about habits, but like, education, not regulation.
I do think Shani was talking about this a bit, but trying to create too many habits at once is an anti-pattern. And anti-pattern, because I brought it to you, you need to know it is like in software, a pattern is like a pattern that you apply to problems over and over again and they work. So an anti-pattern is a pattern that you apply to a problem and it's actually bad. It goes against your best interest. And so anti-pattern is like, okay, I want to like become a better person. So I'm going to start this whole set of new habits.
Right.
Like I'm just going to be a great person. But then you try to do like 10 new habits and you end up accomplishing none of them.
And you give up.
You give up, you feel bad.
You feel like overwhelmed, yeah.
So it's way better actually to just like hone in on one. Because doing one's going to be hard enough. There's going to be days where you wake up and you don't want to do that one thing.
I agree.
And until that one thing becomes just like automatic, like breathing, then you don't try to do a new habit. And I think, and then that again comes back to like picking the habit that you really like and not just trying to do everything. Because I did that in college actually. I remember a conversation with friend Luke Silverman Lloyd. Shout out to Luke, even though he's a socialist, they had made a good point. I was like, I want to like learn skateboard and Spanish and guitar and this and that. And he was like, I don't know if that's gonna work. Like, I think it'd be better just like master one thing for like a year or 10 years and then move on to the next thing. And I was like, I wasn't trying to hear it, but I think that was actually a really good point. And, I think about it a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Andy talks about like some people get really overwhelmed by tracking as well. And he talks about the importance of tracking correctly. Like he gave the example of a restaurant can like start tracking who like purchases, like how much food people are buying. And that's not always the best way to track whether your chef is good. Because that could be, there's customer service involved.
It could be like, it's tourist season and there's more people coming to the restaurant. So he said that this restaurant owner started tracking how much food people leave on their plates, and that was a better measure of the chef's performance as is he making delicious snacks.
Yeah, so I think, and he gave the example of the scale. Like the scale can only motivate you sometimes for so long because you're going to start hitting like that plateau where you're not seeing results as much. So maybe start, shifting focus on your food log and like every day tracking, did I write my food log or whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a interesting little like idea called Goodhart's Law where once you start measuring something as a part of a goal, it ceases to be a good measure. Because once you basically assign the metric, you start optimizing in a bad way to get that metric. So that actually happens a lot with weight loss. You're like, I want to get to this weight. You assign that goal, and now you start doing like deleterious things to get to that goal. Like fasting way too hard, and then you end up binge eating, and like it's really interesting in business too. Like once you assign a goal, people start optimizing for that goal and doing harmful things.
So like my job is, it's a great example of that because like there's like, they measure you on metrics. So you start trying to perform the metrics and not actually like make money. You know what I mean? Because it's actually a different thing. Like they're correlated, but like if you focus too hard on the measure, then the measurement becomes the goal basically.
And I find that with content creators too. If you get too stuck on like, oh, what content is doing the best, and then only posting those kind of videos, like maybe it's like shock funny content, and you're only posting shock funny content, then you're not exploring all these other great ways of making content that you may like be really great at and could end up like going viral or you could end up loving because you're like so focused on like what video is getting the most views. Like if I like looked at my Instagram, it would be like any photo where like my butt is involved. And so like, does that mean I should only post butt photos? Some girls end up doing that.
Yeah.
And then they have an OnlyFans and that's their career for the rest of their life. But that's not the person that I want to be long term. Not like if that's what you do, like you do you, girl. Like I'm jealous, honestly. But
yeah, I mean that's system
like,
versus goals.
It's getting like too tied into the metrics sometimes when.
I think that's what's happened with social media is the goal is attention to screen time, right? And so now they do everything to maximize screen time, and then what maximizes screen time right now, unfortunately, is like inflammatory news,
controversy
for the boomers.
And our goal with social media is to socialize. Like that's what it was supposed to be, a social media platform, and then it's keeping people from being social. Like you're at a restaurant and everyone's on their phone instead of actually like talking to each other across the table.
Yeah.
I think that's why you see it's interesting, or my kind of philosophy on business now is becoming that startups kind of get together and it's like these group of like entrepreneurs and builders and like creatives, like they just want to build something cool, right? And if you ask them their goal, like they haven't built anything, so there's no goal. And it is more like they're just trying to build something new. Like that is their goal. It's very intrinsic. And then when they finally get off the ground and they start making money, it starts becoming a business where they start saying like, oh, I need this metric. Like when Instagram started, they're like, oh, I just want people to share photos, right? There wasn't even probably no concept of money. And then once they got bought by Facebook, they're part of a public company. Now it's about like attention and click-through rate and ads. Shareholders. And
speaking of willpower, we should all know that Chris does not have an Instagram, so he's the real genius in the room.
Yeah, so Ulysses back.
But he has every dating app, ladies. So yeah.
Does he really?
No,
I'm on Hinge.
Really?
Just kidding, right?
Yeah, not Tinder though, because
Hey, don't talk about Tinder.
they met on Tinder, but Tinder's ratchet. So no, my friend Josh Gonzada basically been talking about Match.com as like a generational investment, and I was like, whatever, dude. Like,
What do you mean,
like once in a generation investment. Match.com like owns Tinder and Hinge and all these dating companies.
I find
like,
that
it's changing the way people are dating.
Yeah,
for
people
sure.
talk about Tinder being ratchet, but every dating app, when I was on, like, tried all the dating apps, they all had the same pool of people. Like, and except Tinder was the most common one, so I did find
There's
more
a bigger
people.
pool.
Network
bigger
effects.
pool on Tinder.
Yeah.
But like it was like all these other ones, like there was this one called Coffee Meets Bagel. And when I got on there, it was like you could tell it was the leftover guys that are like, I'm not getting any results on Tinder.
Cold coffee.
So I'm gonna try this Coffee Meets Bagel.
It's like every new app is like whittling down the population. It's like
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's just going through all of the fish, trying to find a good one.
How did we get onto dating?
What's this to do with habits?
I was going to say that if you see a company trying to hit goals too much, it's a sign that they're probably not going to be coming up with new innovative products, because the goal-driven development is very antithetical to like discovering basically new products, in my opinion. So, and that's why big companies often struggle to build new products. It's kind of one of the cuts or threads in Innovator's Dilemma. So, interesting like analogies between business and people. And not having goals, having systems.
That is super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I think back just in my experience, it's like having goals, it hasn't served me all that well, like you don't have to think about your goal that much. I don't know. I think that's kind of what the message of this book is like you can literally think about it like one time, hypothetically, be like, oh, I want to make $1 million, but then, you don't have to like wake up and like, get on your knees and be like, I need $1 million every day. It's like, you start creating the system of a millionaire, basically, which sounds like so corny, and I think like this book, it's a little different, and I'm trying to like put my finger on it. It's a little different than like the idea of like reverse engineering from a goal, because it's not even about goals. Like we were saying when I brought up the weight loss, and like once I lost some weight, it was hard for me to keep dieting. It was because I was so goal oriented. But then it's like now it's like, oh, I just want to be healthy, perform well at work. I'm never gonna like finish that goal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if it's like, oh, I like eating well because it helps me be a better boyfriend and a better employee, and I want to do that every day. Like there's never gonna be a time where I'm like, whew, okay, well, glad I'm done with it. Do you know what I mean? I guess it's still a goal, but it's like a daily goal. I don't know.
And it's like diving into
it kind of gets into the semantics. Like it sounds like a goal, but there is like you can see like the qualitative difference between like saying I want to lose X weight and I want to be healthy. They're definitely one's much more reductive than the other one.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go so far as to say anytime you see like a overly quantitative goal, it's probably going to end up being a flawed system. Like school, like college is so bad because everyone's just optimizing for GPA. So then the professors are optimizing for basically ratings. And so what happens is school's just super inflated and easy, and like that, like a good GPA is what's important, not getting an education.
Yeah, not having a good skill set, right?
So there's a difference between goals and objectives. Goals are general, intangible, broad, abstract, strategic, and objectives are specific, measurable, narrow, concrete, and tactical.
So I guess by that like definition, then that you do want goals, you don't want objectives as much, because like I like the intangible, broad idea of, oh, I'm gonna be healthy. Like I want to be healthy. It's like you're never gonna get to a point where you're like, well, I'm glad I got healthy now. I can do what I want.
But you do want measurable things, like by the habit tracking sense of like, to get healthy, did I do these 3 things? Did I write my food journal? Did I go work out? Did I, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's a tricky problem. Like I think if they had figured out the goals versus systems, like every business would be applying it, but it's hard. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, then once you don't have the goal in the sense of like having something you track really rigorously, you fall into like, well, how do we know if we're making progress? Mm-hmm. And so that's why the goal always pops up. And how do you make comparisons across different groups? Right. So you can't get rid of the goals, but like So it takes some mastery. That's why.
And
Yeah.
some things take just trust, like a like brand awareness. There's really no way to track it unless you're like doing surveys and figuring out like how did you find out about a brand? Was it word of mouth, or was it an influencer, or was it a TV ad or a radio ad? You know what I mean? Because like we can track like how many people bought from this specific link, but some of it is going to be brand awareness of like, no, I didn't buy right now, but later I went and Googled the website and like went and bought that thing because it stuck in my head. Or then I saw that brand at Target and I thought about that ad and I bought it. Like some things aren't measurable and you just have to like just hope it works. You know? That's what a lot of advertising is, I find. And you've talked about that being difficult for you, like when you worked in marketing, because some of those things are so hard to actually like track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this book was really good, and I don't know, I would just recommend it to anyone. It's a pretty like simple topic,
Yeah, I think even if you already feel like understand habits, have this kind of personality, it's still useful. Like my parents make fun of my family, makes fun of me for being just like very habitual, and I still had a lot of value in this book. So I think I'll read it again, just as like a refresher. It's one of these things you can return to. So whether you're new, you don't really think about life like this as like trying to program yourself to have the optimal system, or if you're someone like me that is all you think about, I think it's a really good read. Listen.
Yeah. I mean, it's powerful just to kind of automate your life in a way, you know.
Yeah.
The less you have to like think about things and use your willpower, I think the better. Mm-hmm. He does mention at the end like the downside of it, which I thought was good that he talked about that, and that, you know, like you get so used to, let's say we have a habit of making this podcast this way on a certain day and a certain time. It's like we could get so used to doing it that way that we might not see like, oh wait, maybe we should tweak it, because it just becomes so automatic that maybe it's not optimal.
And I think that's what is really important about the thing he said with making it challenging but not too hard. So always like taking the boring habit and like always tweaking it a little bit but not too much. Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, it's like, I know for me, it's more important just to get the habit going than to make it optimal. When it comes to any of this stuff, like finance, business, physical health.
And Chris Williamson talks a lot about automating, like he said automating, but Chris Williamson goes into detail on like how to automate more things in your life.
Yeah.
And I found that like just telling Siri to remind me like to do things instead of having my brain filled up with this like, Shani, you need to do this, 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 and this, and like having something automate. And I went and automated all my bills after listening to this like Chris Williamson podcast, and just using, like you said earlier, using the technology for good.
Yeah, because it's like I at one point was the type to like wake up right before work, like with just enough time to shower, get dressed, and drive to work, and like that's what I was doing every day. And then like I realized that okay, if I wake up earlier, I could pray, I could meditate, I could journal, I could work out in the morning, I could read, and like slowly but surely I started waking up earlier and stacking these things, and it's like now I don't even know. I mean, the past year I've slept in past 7 like one time, because I feel it's like I don't even think like, oh, I better get up early because I got all this shit to do. It's like I just do it, and it's like my body starts doing these things.
Oh yeah, and then biologically you just start waking up at the same time.
Yeah, like I automatically go to my computer, drink some caffeine, open up my spreadsheets and my journal, and I start doing it. It's like,
I like that this book, it doesn't give you this shame. Like a lot of times you hear like a motivational thing and you kind of have some shame with it, but he really deep dives into the psychology, and you understand why you are failing at certain things, bad habits. And so, like you said, you realized, well, coffee is really my only reward. So and now like I think us working together and figuring out what are some rewards that we can stack in the middle of like these harder habits. And so it's not like hard habit, hard habit, hard habit, hard habit, hard habit. It's like hard habit, reward, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think us being able to figure that out, like more rewards in between these hard things will really help us just as humans. Like it's not possible to just do like hard all day. You have to have like the rewards.
Yeah, I agree.
Any closing remarks?
I think make it easy. The
Yeah.
more time you spend doing your habit, the better. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like in investing, I say time in the market is better than timing the market. Like just keep your money in there and it'll do its thing. Don't worry about like putting it in and getting it out at the perfect time. I think with habits like exercise, like just the time you put into it is more important than like perfectly optimizing
Yeah.
it.
Like you start with taking a walk down the block and back, you know? That's it.
Great things start small.
Yeah. That's kind of the, I mean, we didn't even talk about that. That's kind of the title, right? It's like atomic. It's
Yeah.
small, little, tiny thing.
Yeah,
So-
don't worry about what your workout's gonna be at the gym. Just worry about getting to the gym and doing something that you enjoy first, and then slowly.
Yeah. Just rip curls for 20 minutes. Like I used to. Get a little pump, then fucking
He
bit.
talks about stretching, like stretching being your thing.
Pump and fluff. That's what I call it. Just kind of fluff your butt muscle up and get out of there. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Chris. Always good to have you. And thank you for watching.